Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. And let's start with designing for participation for large-scale event. This is me. I'm Alessandro. I started this incredible adventure that is still with me in the hood, fighting with my fellow players and friends. When we were 12, it was one of the most exciting experiences I've experienced so far, and maybe even today. So today, let's make that interactive. So if you have some question, please raise your hand, and I will try to answer on the fly. If it's too much longer answer, we can meet at the bar and discuss in a more comfortable way. So we will talk about how to create engagement in large-scale events, and we will start from a LARP perspective, which is my background, but we will expand the vision to see whether we can do in other related fields. So I will show you some of the main tools for participation design, and also I will show briefly some case studies coming from some of the Chaos League work, which is the collective I work with. So this is what we will talk about. So are you familiar with the term LARP? Do you have already learned what it is or heard what it is? So I assume it's okay. LARP is an acronym that stands for live action role play, and is partially your fault, UK people, because following some theories, LARP started in the UK in the early 80s. So now let's start this talk for real. So I will ask you something to interact a bit with you. So please close your eyes, all of you, thank you, and take a deep breath. Now imagine you are at the dinner with your relatives, your family. One of those dinners filled with uncles, aunts, cousins, and people you don't even remember existed. This big family reunion that sometimes are a bit hard. Okay, imagine the situation, imagine the room where you are, the people that are sitting at the table with you. Okay, now open your eyes, and the people close to you, you are sitting to you, otherwise please move close to someone, because we will do a very short exercise. So if you want to join, please do it. And now the people that are close to you are your relatives. You are at a family dinner, and you don't know anything about them. You should speak to them anyway. It's a family dinner, you know. So are you ready to start this conversation with the people around you? You don't know what to speak? Yes, about. Of course, it's a family dinner. So are you ready? It will be like 30 seconds, 1 minute. So please, let's start the conversation. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go back to our talk together. And it was fun. Yeah, probably at the beginning, but imagine to do that all the evening long. Would that be exhausting? This is because family dinner have an horrible design. So let's try to do a family dinner with a design. So now let's do it again, but this time to honor my country, let's do that in fake Italian. Not Italian accent, speaking English. Pretend to talk in Italian. Okay? So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, please. Okay, thank you very much. Now, let's do, but flirting this time. You are talking with your relative, like you are flirting. Please, 20 seconds of family dinner with a flirting mood. Okay, thank you very much. Last time, this time, you are mortally wounded. So, small talks while dying. Please. And now you die on your family dinner table. So, thank you very much. Let's do a big applause to each other. Thank you for helping me with that. And this was just to, probably this time was better, you know, because there were a design, very small, a challenge, a goal, and something to do. Was not enough to have a good experience, but before, the first time we did this exercise was a bit harder to do because we didn't have a purpose, a reason to do, which is why small talks are so small talks. So this small experiment was to prove that a crowd is not enough. Having people at your event is not enough to have an event. And sometimes we need something more. Something more. Audience plus a setting, when you do this kind of experience, is not 1 + 1 = 2, but it's equal 3. There is something more than just gather people, put them in the location, and hope that this will work. But this +1, this 3 instead of 2, is hard to define, is le je ne sais quoi. We don't know what it is, but we know when this happens, this kind of immersive and also LARP magic. So what is this third element? What it is the story? I didn't think so. We tend to think that a story is enough to interact, to make people participate, but I don't think it's enough. What we really should, at least for my opinion, we really should try to achieve is interaction. Is people acting with the object, the location, and each other. So story can be the sparkle, can start the fire, but the real fire we want is interaction. So just to go with a bit more clarity, interaction and immersion are not the same. They can work together, they can overlap, but they are not the same. So interaction is, I will go very simplistic for matter of time, but immersion can be the feeling of being lost in something, you know, being entire in a bubble, elsewhere, in another time, another space, and everything cooperate to create this idea in your participant. While, so it's about believing, it's about not bursting the bubble. While interaction is the mutual action and reaction between people, between objects, between stories. So it seems two opposite terms. One is like being the bubble, the other is like try to force the bubble. So interaction, we can say, is more rational, involve action, and immersion involves suspension of disbelief, so, and which is fragile. So is that possible to combine those two different elements? One possible solution is co-creation. Yes, I put a lot of GIF in my slides because I like it that it's moving. It's a bit silly. So co-creation is a LARP feature. It's really one of the things that makes LARP LARP. People be able not only to interact, but to create and to produce something meaningful and something which is part of the content of the experience. But it's something, luckily, we can steal from LARP, we can adapt from LARP, we can put inside other experiences that are not 100% fully agency, because this is usually what we want to achieve in LARP, but it's not the same. This is not the case in every possible of immersing experience. So co-creation is like participant produce content and participant developing designer's idea or suggestion or prompt. You put something in a room and you assume that people will expand that. So this is why, in my opinion, there is a spectrum. You know, interactive and co-creative are like two opposite points in the same spectrum. Interactive can be also, you know, a very easy museum style where you push button and things happen. This is interaction. I have to interact with the button. I press the button and something happens. While on the other spec there is co-creation. So if we have to do a mathematical, very easy formula, we can say that in LARP, the mathematical formula is immersion plus co-creation. You mean you need people believe to be elsewhere, and it can be reached by incredible, cool and credible location, or it can be an abstract black room. It doesn't matter. But they need to be immersed, and that's how they need to co-create. So this is the magic formula. And as you can see, this approach is very anti-consumerism. Because who is the producer? Is people paying to produce stuff? I mean, if they pay the tickets, come to your event, and they don't are 100% active, the event won't happen in a good way. So basically they pay to be allowed to create content for the experience itself. So this is what makes that magical and incredible, and this is also the downside that makes LARP difficult to be accessible for people, because if they go with their mentality like cinema style, I pay, then I watch the movie by sitting, it doesn't work. And it's the same for other immersive experience. I think is a struggle for every one of us in the room, which is an immersive producer, to go beyond this consumerism approach and try to reach something different. So this is a possible revolution for the sector, you know. The first, what we call the first-person audience. First-person audience means that the line between the participant and the audience is blurred. You don't know exactly there is an audience, there is a participant, because let's assume we are in a LARP context. Everyone is playing a character, and there is no audience. But I am the audience of the other people playing, and vice versa. So there is a way, there is audience in the room, and there is active actor, which is not acting, but you know what I mean. So this makes things a bit more complex. The lines are blurred. And also, a good definition that some of the LARP theorists will came up with is fully agency storytelling, which I think is a very good definition. Is a storytelling, is a story that has been told, but is told through the agency. And this agency can rise from 1% to 100%. 1% is like pressing the button, and 100% is the story is not even finished, and I have to finish the story. So it's a story with no authors, with no audience, and I come from a musicological background, so for me, this kind of experience, immersive or LARP, doesn't matter. Sometimes these two words collapse or overlaps or mix, which is nice. So for me, this kind of experience is like singing a folk songs during a night out with friends. You know, we don't know who wrote this song. It's a popular song, and we sing the song all together. And we are doing that together in a close circle of friends. The circle can be bigger, of course, but this is, for me, an idea. So how we can keep participants engaged and active. Let's go more into the practical part of this talk. I came up with these 4 pillars that for me are essential to keep large audience engaged and active during your events. So the first thing, I will go one by one. The first thing is the MA model, so which means, actually it's wrong, it's MAA, sorry. This is happened when you finish your slide too late. So it's motive, agency, alibi, and agency. So those are the 3 words behind the MAA model. So let's go to the motive, what the motive is. Motive is the reason why players will perform certain actions. So usually when things doesn't work in your immersive experience or LARP is because you expect people to do stuff, but they don't have any real reason to do that. So if you put a door into a room and say at a certain moment participant will open the door, yeah, why? If there is not a clear why, they maybe won't do it. So it seems very trivial, but when you design, I think most of you have the experience in that, is something you really should have in your mind. And it can be hidden in game or communicated beforehand. It can be a reason in game why I should open this door, because there is someone who is treating me, so I have to run away, so the door is the only way to go out to the room. Or it can be communicated before the game. In this kind of game, you are supposed to open doors. It's not a very catchy pitch, but you know, at least it's clear. And it creates action and involvement. If I have reason to do that, I will do stuff, and this will enhance my thing. As usual, if you have questions, please raise your hand. Second is the agency. The agency also is a clear concept. I divided that in 2 parts. The first part is there is agency when I can do stuff. I've been warned by the organizer that I can do things, because otherwise I'm freeze. I don't know what to do. If people communicate that I can do stuff, I will do stuff, and what kind of stuff I can do. And then also very important is there are meaningful consequences. The agency is give to the participant the idea they can do, give them the tools to do, and give them results of what they did. Okay? Usually, this is something that is, we tend to forget that as organizers, you know. You do something, but it's not clearly visible. And by clearly, I mean 100% evident. It can be big, it can be small, but have to be something that I recognize I did it, or something that happened because I did something. So this is for the agency. And then alibi is more difficult to understand, but is still very important, is that allows players to do stuff that usually they won't do, because there are different people that work with a different mindset to the roles or character or function you assign them for the duration of the experience. So it means that it's a sort of shield you can use to say, it's not me, it's the character, or it's the function. Of course, we need to work on safety, because otherwise it will be an excuse for unsafe people to say, it was not me, it was the character who punched you 5 times in the face. Yeah, no, this is not alibi. This is a case for the police. But let's say it's something that creates different space, you know, allows me to have a dialectic between me and the action I will do in game, and by this create a bridge to the other. I can talk with someone who did something I don't like in real life, but during the experience, because there is a social pact. And the social pact is together because we have the alibi. And this creates the social pact that, of course, create consent and trust, which are crucial for this kind of event. Is hard to achieve? Yes, it is. Also, I mean, take 10 seconds and to think, who do you really trust in your life? Not that much people, right? Maybe your family, your friends, your idols, your preferred philosopher or politician, not that much that, okay? But when you have trust and consent, this we can skip it, then you have a community. And if you have a community, people accept the first person audience because they trust. And people action, and they agree, they accept the fact that other people's action will impact their experience. So I will not be mad or unsatisfied if something changed my expectation, because I know we are part of the community. Community can be just one evening long, or can be a community that go along for years and years. It doesn't matter. Once I believe I am the community, the game theorists say the magic circle. Once I am in the magic circle, I accept everybody's action if I have agency, motive, and alibi, of course. And then being part of a community means that you can explore and experiment more. So you feel, but to achieve all of this amazing thing I'm talking about, we need in some way to be comfortable, a sense of familiarity somehow. Know the experience and know how I position myself into the experience. So there is no engagement without people being familiar or what is going on, what are the possible action and reaction. Other ways people tend to freeze or to not act, to not disrupt other people's experience. So we need to have people active in the game to participate. They have to be sure that they can do it and it would not cause any harm to anyone. So it's a strange kind of being familiar, because you have to make these people familiar with places that don't even exist. In a case of a LARP or an experience, maybe you say, now we are in another time or space, and you need to be familiar. And it's a paradox, you know? The French philosopher Gilles Deleuze gave a very interesting example. The example was like a kid singing in the dark. Why we sing in the dark? And why we all in our real life, when we are stressed or we are scary or we are alone in the dark, sometimes we start to humming or to singing our favorite song or just a melody. Does happen to some of you? Yes? It's very normal. And Gilles Deleuze say the boy is singing into the dark room to make the room familiar, because as far as can go my melody, it became my safe space. It became my room, because it's a space I can occupy with my voice. It's invisible occupation, but it's something that makes me feel home. And I think the community is this song in the night that can make everything home. But also to achieve that, we need communication. Without communication, it's very hard to get people ready to take action in your event. So there is A lot of communication that has to be done. The bar sometimes is higher than usual show where people used to go. If you go to more standard theater or movies, you know, people that are fantastic form of art, of course, but the audience expect to be seated and then everything happened inside them. If you need experience where things happen outside, then you need to communicate a lot. And communication should be honest, should be sexy, because let's be honest, we need people to sign up for our events, otherwise they won't happen. And also should be clear and complete, because I don't have to forget anything, but there is something very difficult to achieve, which is a right balance between the amount of information you have to tell to the player. Because have you ever experienced that? The Schrödinger player. If you tell them too much information, they are lost, they freeze, they panic, they start to read or listen to your information in pre-game communication. So basically your communication is just useless. On the other end, if you communicate so small, they don't have any clear idea. So you have to find a different balance, also because every brain works differently, so you have to provide written information, spoken information, videos, whatever fits to your audience. But try hard to communicate, because otherwise people won't participate enough in your things. And also, there is another thing that usually are not, people don't consider that enough, which are the affordances. I will let that roll while doing more experimental thing. It should have been done with the water pistol, but in London it's very hard to find a water pistol. This makes the world a sad place, so please do something, London friends. So, why I did that? To explain you the affordances. The affordances are what an object, a situation of a person is suggest you to do without any speaking. If you saw a ball of paper, this object is screaming, throw me, okay? So, what is suggested by an object? A person of a situation. So, those are the affordances. So, when you design your experience and we put your experience in a room, in a space, be very careful that people will act as the first things, as the things suggest to be used, okay? So, it can be something that can help you. You want people to open a door, you put a big red sign on the door that say, don't open me, people will do it, of course. So you can affordances or you can go against the affordances. But be always aware that people do assumption all the time, because it's as we live everyday life, and they will do the most easy things an object will suggest. So this is a good tool to know how people can act without pushing them, but surround them by things that maybe you want to do. So you have to tell to people what are the pillars in your game, what they are supposed to do, and then provide them the good affordances. Because without good affordances, I cannot achieve my agency. I don't have the tool to act, and then everything collapses. So, and this is done in different way. We need a lot of preparation and a lot of trust, as you can see. So, pre-game communication, we talk, is a lot, but you can also do communication during the game, okay? So, just before the experience, what you can do workshops. Your welcome speech is very important. Just before the event, you talk to the crowd and say what they have to do and set up the mood. But you can also do that in game, during the game. There can be a small piece of paper with indication. There can be action that happens, any kind of things that can go. And another things, which is if we go back to our 4 pillars, you know, we went through the MMA model, we went through the social pact, to the communication. Now let's go to the omnicomprehensive design. What does it mean? It means that you have to take care of everything, literally everything. If you left a blank space, this blank space will not stay blank for long. Someone will do something. Some participant, some situation will happen. If you don't have a clear idea of everything, I know this is a pain, but it's the pain that all the immersive organizers have to go through. So, story, logistics, interaction, how does it work? And if something is not designed, it will be designed, probably by the participant, without you knowing how or when or what. So maybe you want to be surprised. In this case, yes, left some blank space, but then you need the infrastructure to react. If you want to go 100% agency, let's do it. But then remember that people will surprise you, and they will. I think all the organizers have incredible stories about things that you didn't even imagine that happened. I will give you a very short, terrible story that happened in one of my events back in the days when I was a young and naive organizer. And there was a certain moment, a hard situation in a villa, and a police car should come and go, and change the situation. Unfortunately, we had a car breakdown, so our car as organizer was 5 minutes late. In those very short 5 minutes, one of the organizers went out to the villa and say, I will go to call the police. We didn't stop him because okay, he will just encounter our fake police. But then the fake police was not there. But there were a real car police there that were stopped in the middle of the night by a guy screaming, there is a murder in the villa, and he was dressed up in a 70s costume. And police go inside the villa, and there were any kind of things police don't want to see. Blood, guns, drugs, and Brigate Rosse textbook, any kind of things you can imagine. So, if you want to be surprised, be ready to react. Because you work with error, and Giovanni Rodari, which is an amazing Italian writer for books for kids, so if you have kids, read them some Giovanni Rodari stories, a suggestion, and wrote that error can be generative. And it is, but it's generative only if you have room to explore what this error just created. Plus, and this is very important, if you design the most of the things you can beforehand, your level of accessibility will increase because you know what can happen, you know where it happened, and you can warn people and say, look, this event have this threshold of accessibility or this on this, and you can exactly say who can take part in this experience. So now that we know all our 4 pillars of the models, while we can apply that to a large scale, because everything I just said can be applied to a 3-person experience. They are just abstract elements. Let's put those elements in a large event thing. So with large, I mean more than 120 people with full agency. Maybe there is possibility to do more, of course. I will talk about this kind of size that can scale up, of course. So, of course, there are downsides and upsides. Let's go to the downside before, because I'm an optimistic person and I prefer the bad news before. So, the logistic effort, of course, with a larger crowd is heavier. The production, the cost, everything go worst with a large crowd. It's difficult to have intimate moment and to have small, meaningful moment. It's harder to read the room during a session. As an organizer, you don't know what's happened all around the place if you have that much player. And also, you are limited in what you can ask them, because when you talk with the crowd, of course, you can propose them to do stuff, and that big crowd is like a giant instead of individual, so it's way less able to, less flexible, let's say. And the risk is, if you work with large crowd, you become a traffic officer. People go rare, no, go on your left, on your right, now you have to stop, now you have to proceed, which can be useful in some part of the experience, but sometimes the problem working with large crowd is there is this tendency you have to fight against your role as mainly a traffic policeman. But there are luckily also a lot of upsides. A large group of people is a prism, is a multiplier experience. They can create more. There are more possibility to co-create, to create interaction. Also, people feel less judged because you are not in the spotlight if you are in a crowd. So it can be a space of being more brave or so on, I can act. It's like dancing. If I now start dancing here, I will be a bit embarrassed, of course. If I ask to shut out the light and then we dance all together, I will show we will dance. It's not something we will do now, but you know I will watch. And also, very important, you have more budget. You have more cost, but you are more income. So I will give you in the last 10 minutes and some practical experience that come from some of work that Chaos League did. So just to be clear, I will present some of the work of my collective because, of course, they are the work that I know better. But LARP is a galaxy. So if you want to have a better idea, go do your research on the internet. There is a lot of research and you will find a lot of amazing creators that do incredible stuff. You can go to nordiclap.org, which is a very cool blog, and check out Nordic LARP design, Nordic LARP talks on YouTube. There is a lot that you will find very different and all important and complementary approach. So this is not the LARP, this is what I do, but there is a lot to discover more. So Sahara Expedition is a LARP we did in the actual Sahara Desert in the south of Tunisia. So basically, we bring our player there, and we pretend to be in a 1934 archaeological expedition. And so we did everything, costume, transport, everything was provided by us. And this is all the pictures you will see are pictures that are taken during the experience. Okay, so what you see is the actual player having fun and playing in their own event. We sleep in the tent and this kind of stuff. So how we create participation with this kind of event, which is basically, you know, Sahara Desert is a very cool location, but also you don't have any space for anything. You have small objects, small space. It's a big space. It's super interesting, but it's like a big, enormous sandbox. You know, what you can do with. So, and of course, we want the relationship, we want people to be active. Basically, we had 3 pillars in the game, and we communicate that very clear to our participant. In this LARP, you will, and then start the bullet list, play as a member of the expedition. So you will be an archaeologist, you will be a soldier, you will be these kind of things. Then you will have your personal relationship. You will have your friends, enemies, and that happen in your psychological level of your character. And then point number 3, you will have a psychological horror, because this game was a bit influenced by Cthulhu mythos, cycle of novel. And then, of course, is about adventure. So you will discover things, you will move in the desert, we will sleep in the tent, we will do something that you see in this kind of movie or novels or whatever. So in numbers, we had 3 runs so far, and we will have 6 more. And so basically, why I'm presenting that to this talk is because in these kind of things, the participation we achieved that the character, and it worked well, likely, is people were there and were very active during the game because we gave them something unique. Like spend 3 days in the Sahara Desert pretending to be this person. Unique doesn't mean, I mean, yes, Sahara is also a big location. When you heard that, whoa, going to the Sahara Desert. So this is the first call to action. But something unique can be also something in your own hometown that you never visited before. A building that was closed for like 30 years and you managed to have that for your experience. Anything, can be anything, but should have this appear to be something that, I mean, it will be something that you will do once in your life and you will remember forever. And also, this create an emotional attach. So we know that people in the Sahara Desert will be super hyped and super active and super responsive in the game because they travel so far to be there and do that. So you know that the more unique thing you give to people, the more they are hooked to the game. And those are other pictures from the game. I will be very quickly. Yes, we have 25 camels, and we have around 20 people crew, and 85 players per run. And we will run it, if everything goes according to the program, 9 times we will play. So there were the night camp, and there were the expedition command, and people posing cool because, come on, I'm in the desert. There is a photographer in game which you are supposed to ignore, but I think this guy didn't. But it's okay. And yeah, so profile picture. Okay, I will present you another quickly another project we did, which is Miskatonic University. Maybe some of you are familiar with the Cthulhu Mythos books or novels. Miskatonic University is a fictional university where all this kind of strange knowledge about things that are unspoken or are supernatural. I mean, Miskatonic University is particularly into this field. So is the prequel. Basically, in the Miskatonic University, players discover where is the destination to go with the Sahara expedition, and then is 10 years before in the fiction. And also, we went very clear with the communication. We say why you should be there and why you should do this kind of action, because you know Miskatonic University. Maybe you want to explore an IP in a first-person audience, and act as a novel, and the participation spark was this. So these are a bit of numbers of the experience, and some of the picture of the game. This was the university. It's a castle in Poland we rent. I mean, the old castle was for us, and there were all the participants go there. There were their sleeping room, their classrooms, their common rooms, and gardens, and those are some picture of the interior. There was some common room, some private room, and the garden, and also those pictures are all taken in game. So there were action that the player were actually doing during the experience. The stairs, and then of course meeting outside, and some occult stuff going on, and professor meetings, and then night out, of course, seance and rituals, because what's the reason to go to the university if you cannot do that with your classmates? And some experiment on real body. Nobody got armed, I can promise. The rectors and the speech, some professors, and some real life moment. We had the newspaper in game, radio in game that enhanced the narrative and put narrative elements. The experience was 3 days long. And so on, and other picture. So now I'll present you in these last 5 minutes we have together 2 other experiences that are different. The first 2, Sahara and Miskatonic, are what they call, with a very horrible definition, blockbuster LARP. I mean, LARP for a high budget, for aimed to an international audience with a relatively high budget, and the engagement come to the idea of being there and experience something unique, experience with a lot of people, majority you don't know, and then you have a character, and it's 3 days long, it's super immersive, so participation comes from this. So if you want to have a large crowd immersed, work on your setting, work on your location, work on the idea of we will do that together and what we can do, what you cannot do. But you can do that also for smaller experience. First They Came, for example, is a book. It's a book that you can read, and inside the book you have all the rules you need to play with your friends. You can play whenever you want, wherever you want, because it's to be played in a dark room. It can be a small room, a sleeping room, whatever. Because it's played, it's set in 1942 Berlin, and the participant will take the roles of people undesired by the regime for political reason, ethical reason, religion, sexuality, all the categories we know were persecuted at the time. So they basically are running out because police is breaking in their building where they live. They don't know each other, and they go to the cellar, to the attic, to hide. And in the attic, which is dark, which is why the room should be dark, you will meet the other. You don't know who they are, but you know they have something to hide. And it's a game that is played, it's like 1 hour and a half long. It's played whispering all the time, because they can listen to you, they can enter in. And you basically, you will probably die, you don't know. You are there, and you share with the other why you are there, your personal story. And there is an audio track, which are the police searching for you in your apartment because you left your apartment open and because you are hiding in the attic. And you will hear their voices, their noises. They are approaching, so this audio track provides you mood and also information, because policemen are talking. And you're like, I found that in this apartment. Maybe it's your apartment, and there is something strange in your apartment. Why you have that? You have to justify that to us, because maybe you are a spy or whatever. So is this kind of experience, and it's very immersive, and it's very rules-light. Basically, there are no rules, and there is a bit of role-playing, but it's not that much that alpha page of information. And what create, according to me, engagement in this kind of experience in first the game is you are living the life of another person, because all the characters are based on a real existing person that were there at the time. So living a moment in our history, this is something that makes you willing to have this kind of experience. This is the box that comes with the rules and with blindfold, because it should be played blindfolded. And those are some part of the books. So it's a book, the other events are larger and are weekend-long LARP. So I will present you the last example, which is the 90s room. I don't have any cool picture to show because we designed this experience, but we will do that in November. So we'll give you a bit of context. We were commissioned by the world's largest games and comics fair, which maybe you don't know, but it's in Italy, it's in Lucca in Tuscany. It's the biggest one in the world. Maybe there is one other in Japan, so they are fighting for who is the bigger, but who cares? I'm talking about 500,000 people in a town that usually has like 10 times less those people, okay? So they call us and they say, it's the 30th anniversary of the game section of the fair, so we want something to celebrate game culture and pop culture and reflect also about the game and the value and the social and the political and historical values of game. So we came up with an experience that is not a LARP at all. You don't have a character, so this is a fourth example, which is once again different from the other to show you the different possibility. So basically, participant will visit the room of a group of young friends who gather to play any sort of games. Tabletop, role-playing, video games, whatever. It's in the 90s because it was founded in 1993, and the world was very different. So visiting the room provides opportunity to touch objects, to read notes, to interact with objects. In this way, participants get in touch with the material culture of the time, but also with the deepened spirit of the time. And the room also tells the story of 4 teenagers with their problems, happy moments, and growing up. So basically, these are a bit of datas, and is an example for me for non-in-character participation. And why we expect and we hope people will participate. This will be not a large crowd event, but we will be run it multiple times. So basically, we will be there for 5 days, and we will work 9 hours per day for 5 days. So you can do the math, because I can't. But hundreds of people, let's say. So why we hope they will interact? Where is the sparkle of participation? I think in this case is the context. We are in a fair, and people that visit this fair for years want to know what it was before, want to know something more. So in this case, the participation comes from the context. It can sound like a trick, people are already interested, and it is, but you can use it. So when you design something, you can go in specific context, and the context can be the push to participate for people that will take part in the experience for your player. And we know that there is some retro, in this case we did some retro engineer participation building. We know that people are interested in something, and we build something that can be okay for this crowd because they asked us to do that. Okay, so the question I want to close with in this talk is possible to reach the level of participation I show you without having a character? Because this is the big deal. Okay, because character is a mask to act. So, is possible? My personal answer is yes, it's possible. But to achieve that, we need these points that I think can sum up our talk for today. Meaningful action. So I will participate if I saw that in game I do something that is important for me, for the others. Otherwise, I will stop. Meaningful also means that I know why I'm doing something, how I can do something, and what this something produce. Number 2, clear indication. For example, in Miskatonic University, we want people to be, this very easy example, but it's something you have to work with when you are a designer. We want people to be on time for their classroom. First run, we assume they will be on time because they have an in-game watch. It didn't work. People were like forgotten because there were a lot of things to do. So easy, very easy design things. We put a bell. Okay, time to go to class. You have clear indication, and then the bell stops, and you know that your classroom is over for the day, and you can interact with the other and go to the party or whatever because you are on a university campus. In Sahara University, there were telegraph. Telegraph arrived. Let's call it in English. Yeah, telegraph. Yeah. So you have quick information from the command of the operation, which was in the US, goes straight to the Africa, and you know what to do. And for example, in First Day Game, there is the audio track that give you the information, what you have to do. And those examples are all in-game things, but there can be, of course, also before game. And in the 90s room, there is an external narrator. So there will be like a stand by me voice of someone say, oh, I remember those times, so this is the indication for the player. Then social pact. Communication, what can be done, what cannot be done, because in this way, and this is very important, people will feel safe enough to participate. They know that they will not cause any harm to anyone, and no one will criticize them for what they have just done. And of course, this is important also for the community and to have organizer support. 4 is part of the meaningful action, clear and visible consequences of the action. And point number 4 is being ready. Being ready to what? As I told you before, to react to what happened when you give crowd of people full agency. They will do stuff. You ask them to do stuff, they will do stuff, and then you have to react, because otherwise they won't go on. They will just once, there is no consequences, everything is lost. The magic is lost, the action is just falling down. So, what's next? What's next? If you want, those are our contacts, and also I will be here all the day long, so if you want to come and talk with me, I will be very glad. I'm basically here for that, more from here to you than to speak to you. That being said, it was a pleasure to speak to you, so thank you very much.